This afternoon we're going to be plumbing in the Greywater for the shower and sink. The last thing we did was plumbing in the fresh water, so this morning I was just putting the breathers on those. We also previously installed the water tanks, and we've got a Greywater tank which is sitting under here. So our shower's there, we're going to plumb that in first, and then we're going to do the sink after that. I do have a little bit of a diagram for this, so we'll jump to the computer quickly and I'll show you the different components we're going to be using. Alrighty, so for anyone who wants a bit more detail on our Greywater system, I've put together this diagram. It shows all the components there, they're all numbered and then listed down the side, and I'll go through each bit as we do it with the install. The shower waste we put in is a 40mm waste with a BSP thread, so we're going to use a 40mm BSP 90° out of that, and then normally you'd have a P-trap or something like that. Because we're limited for space, we're going to be using these HEPVO valves. So what they do is, instead of having a P-trap, you use this, which is quite small, and it's essentially like a little one-way valve for gravity-fed Greywater wastewater, and it will only let the water flow in one way, so it means nothing's going to splash back into the shower or sink, and it should also stop any smells coming back through from the tank. So any water trying to go in that way, there's a little flappy thing in there. If you go that way, it'll flow through. So on all the threaded joints, we're just using this Teflon thread tape, which helps stop leaks. This is the shower waste. This here is our breather from our internal tank, and for anyone that was watching that previously, I was going to put a hose, like a flexible hose, on that internal one, but I ended up using some of this 12mm John Guest. For the other ones though, we did go for the flexible hose for the breather. So these HEPVO valves, they've got a 40mm threaded side, and they've got a 40mm PVC pipe side as well. They can go horizontal like this or vertical, and if you're putting them horizontal, you've just got to make sure the ribs are the right way, and obviously that you get the flow direction the right way as well. So they've got an arrow on there. You probably can't see that, but so just using some 40mm PVC for the connection on the other side of that HEPVO valve. With cutting PVC, it's good to have a really fine tooth blade like this little miter saw or a hacksaw. So to join the PVC fittings, we're just using some PVC cement. Alright, so yesterday we ended up having to drop the Greywater tank, which was a massive pain, but we had to get some extra 90° fittings on around some of the chassis, and we couldn't do that with the tank in place, so we did that, and then we got rained out. So we've been back this morning and I've just sort of loosely fitted together the rest of the system, so we'll jump under and I'll show that, and then we'll put it together properly. I feel like a scuba diver just going backwards like that all the time. Do you know why they go backwards off the boat like that? No. Well, if they went forwards, they'd fall into the boat. Alright, so she's not the prettiest, but this is the system we've got. So we've got our 40mm 90° into the HEPVO, which has got a 40° BSP threaded, into 40mm PVC pipe, into a 90mm PVC 90°, short bit of PVC 40mm, another 90°, another bit of PVC 90, 45, into a 40mm to threaded 1.5-inch BSP, and then we've got a 1.5-inch BSP to tail with a bit of sort of flexible but quite firm 40mm pipe there. So that just gives us a bit of flexibility and means that the joint didn't have to line up 100%. And then we're down into another 1.5 to 1.5-inch tail to BSP. Then we go into a 40mm or 1.5-inch to 1-inch reducer, and then we've got the two 90° into the tank. So I would have preferred a 1.5 inch into the tank, but there just wasn't enough space to get this tank to work with a 1.5, so we had to go with the 1 inch. But I think that's going to be fine. So I've marked it all. It's all sitting in here loosely now, and I've just marked everything out before we glue it all together. Alright, so that's all plumbed in now. Good thing about this is we can undo it because these unscrew here, and we can undo this, and if we get a blockage or something we can pull that piece of pipe out to clean it. And then I've just got a...
Oh,
wow.
Ah!
And then I've just got a 1 inch tail to 1 inch BSP thread there, and we're going to put that on there. And that's where our breather will go. So we'll just run a bit of flexible hose off this up on here and put a saddle clip down for our breather. So that's that in there. The other thing I'm just going to keep in mind, and I'm just going to check once the van's been running a bit, is just how hot this gets and whether I need to put a bit of a heat shield over this, or if it's going to be okay the way that it is. But yeah, pretty happy with this for now, and we're going to move on to plumbing the Greywater for the sink after lunch. This is the other inlet that we put on the Greywater tank, so there's a 1 inch inlet there, and I've already put a 90-degree inlet on that before we put that tank in. And then I've got a 1 inch poly nipple, and then a 1 inch to 1.5 inch reducer. So I'm putting that on now. So this is the sink inlet side of the Greywater tank, and this was the sort of thing we had to think about ahead of time before we ordered the tanks, where we wanted these inlets to be and how it would work with the layout. And then I've got a 1.5 inch BSP 90-degree fitting there, and that's going to sit down like that. And then I've just drilled a hole through here with the hole saw for the shower Greywater plumbing to come through, and I've given that a paint, just letting it dry at the moment. And then now I'm putting a 1.5 inch threaded BSP to 40mm pipe. What I'm going to do, and I was sort of working this out on the fly even though I'd tried to work it out before, I'm going to run a bit of 40mm PVC pipe from here with a 90-degree elbow here, and then I'm going to put a 40mm to 1.5 inch threaded BSP female, and then I'll put the tail, 1.5 inch tail to male threaded, and then we'll run the pipe up through there. There's a couple of extra little fittings I've still got to get for that though, so we're going to let that dry first, then we'll pull the pipe through there.
The things I do to get the shot, you know? Oh.
Seatbelt on. I think I got this hose from a boat supply place. It's really highly kink resistant. Well, that's the last connection for the Greywater. I actually managed to connect that pipe directly up to the tail underneath. I might quickly show you that, and then we can probably test it out. Alright, so this is the final connection down here. I was going to run a bit of PVC across here and up, but I managed to get this to join up like this, so we'll just see how that goes for now, and this saves us going to the shops and we can see how our Greywater's working. But yeah, it's the 40mm hose into the 40mm or 1.5 inch tail to 1.5 inch BSP into that 90-degree fitting. Oh, I hope I never have to lay under a van again. Well, that all seems to be working. Got no drips, you can hear the water coming through and into the tank. That's a win. We got so excited yesterday that we were done with the Greywater that we didn't test the shower, so we're going to do that now. Let's go check it out. Alright, so hopefully you can hear that. It's running through there and it's filling up the tank. I don't know if I turn this, if any water's going to come out, or if it's probably not quite level yet. Oh yeah, there we go. So yeah, that all seems to be working pretty nicely. Well, that's the Greywater done, and I'm really glad to have that behind us, and we can move on to some of the fun stuff like putting the table in and doing the cladding. Oh, more time under the van. I'm excited. Why is it tilted like that?
Yeah, it's just videography, mate.
I'll just show you the different pieces.
Oh, the puzzle!
Oh,
what happened?
snapped me drill bit.